Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Ian's Adventures once again in the great outdoors. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. Enjoy the video. Alright. Right guys, so the first thing we want to look at is the three norths before we move on to 4 and 6 figure grid references. And we've done this on the other video and you can go and watch it if you want. Right, so true north, let's use my Cuxa, which I've just made, I'm very proud of. True north, imagine that's the world, the planet, all right? True north is the top, the actual top, North Pole of the planet, all right? Then you've got south at the bottom, east on your right, and west on your left, all right? So that would be said to be true north. So you need to line up your map with true north, all right? So in order to be able to do that, we need to look at his map. All right, and we need to line up the grid lines with true north. In order to be able to do that, we need to use a compass. All right, so we can assess there that north, if we look at the compass, north is there. All right, now I've had a problem with this because this table's made of plastic and over time things have been rubbing on it and it seems to have gained some static pull. So as I go down to the table, it was before, is it going? Yeah, it's going. As I go down to the table, it's pulling slightly easterly. All right, and we don't want that. All right, so I'm going to try and do this slightly off the table. Be aware of that, everybody, because we are complicating things. If you've got something like a watch with a battery in it or anything else which is statically charged on you and such like electronic equipment, try and keep your compass away from it because the magnetic pull for whatever it is you're carrying will draw that little north needle over towards it and it can give you the false bearing. Another thing to look out for is some of the rocks out here on these hills, okay, electrically charged, and that's due to friction within the earth causing friction, and it gets picked up and held within the iron of the rock. All right, so if you go up to certain places up in Edale or certain places around the world, they will actually give you a false reading, and in some places it's so strong it can actually cause the needle to spin. So you don't want that. Just be aware of it. Try and find out about local information about that. All right, okay, so what we need to do then is we need to orientate this map to north. All right, so we're going to turn this map around so that these lines, the east things, run in conjunction with the edge of your compass. All right, so that would then we've gone down to the, let's pretend that's north, shall we? Let's just pretend it is, because it's always going to keep sending us off on one. So there you go. I think north's about there, but we're going to work with what we've got because I can't, it's doing me head in. Right, there we go. So we're going to bring it off the table, and then we're going to go to north. All right, now that's all well and good, isn't it? That's all well and good, but the problem with that is that we've got this thing called the magnetic variation. Now I can assure you that that's about right. All right, there's no problems with that whatsoever, because the magnetic variation in the Edale Valley is about 1.6. all right, and that's next to nothing. It's hardly even worth worrying about. It would be if you were walking 100 miles, but if you're only walking like 10 miles, I won't even worry about it. All right, so we'll come to magnetic variation in a minute. All right, and so what we've got here, we've got grid north. That's the north where the northings, we'll come to them in a minute, progress towards. That's the top of your map. Then we've got true north, which is the top of the world. All right, so we need to orientate this map, which is a representation of the ground on the world. All right, so we need to make it line up with the actual world, so we're walking in the right direction. And then we need to look at magnetic north, which is the north on your compass. So if you're walking over open ground, yeah, you can follow your compass over these areas because you've got nothing basically to get a bearing on. All right, so you need a line of sight, so to speak. So you need to work on a bearing off your compass. Now let's go back to the magnetic variation. All right, the world wobbles. All right, it's not consistent. Now if I'm going to show you this, and I hope I'm not blagging people's heads, and if there's any problems at all, just ask in the comments below. The world's there, and let's say true north's there and south's there, east is there and west is there. All right, I better make sure I don't reverse this video, won't it? It'll really confuse people. Right, so north there, what happens is over time the world wobbles like this, and we think it's due to the push and pull within the Earth in conjunction with the way the Earth moves through space. All right, so what happens is it wobbles. So we've got to take into consideration that wobble. All right, so what happens is the top of the world's there, and we've got as a compass showing to north, but it's showing magnetic north. All right, so the magnetic north may be off-centered to the actual true north. Isn't this complicated? Like I say, any questions, just ask in the comments below. And in Edale, it's only 1.6, so it's not something to worry about. Find out what the magnetic variation is in the place where you are, wherever you are on the planet. All right, because it can be quite bad. Because if you're down here, it's not too bad if you're central, but if you're over here, that's going to be quite significant, isn't it? So you need to take it into consideration when you apply your compass to your map to be able to find true north. All right, so we're not going to go into that. Don't worry about that for now. That's not even really a problem. I've just got to reiterate it as we go through. So we've looked at grid north, true north, and magnetic north, and we've also incorporated the magnetic variation just so people have got an idea that it exists. So don't worry about it for now. And if anybody's interested, that's what it looks like there. North, south, east and west. And between those, because we might need them later, we've got northeast. Yeah, let's go with the dominant. Okay, north and south are generally dominant. All right, so it's northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, not west, north. All right, so it's northwest. And there's more between them, for example, north, northwest, but we're not worried about that for now. All right. So we've discussed that, and then now we're going to move on to 6-figure grid references, but we're going to work on 4-figure grid references first. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so the first thing we need to understand before we go on to 4- and 6-figure grid references is the northings and eastings, and that's the grid lines on the map. Okay, and it's quite simple when you get your head around it, and I know a lot of this can be confusing. All right, just bear with me. Right, so northings progress northerly. They don't point, they progress northerly as lines. And eastings progress from west to east, hence being eastings. All right. Now, if we look on the map, these lines that go down like this, they would be eastings. And the lines which go across there, it says number 82, they would be northings because they progress upwardly. And the point we're going to be working at is this one here, which is the beginning of our trip. When we start on the route card, we're actually setting off from the car park just there, but we'll use this train station sign here, which you can find in the key. Check out the key on your map and get to understand it, people, because sometimes you're going to come across strange symbols. If you don't understand them straight off the top of your head, or you have to start rooting around, it can cause issues. So get into your key and start playing with your map and get used to it. So this is a train station, and that is an A road, which is going up past the train station. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that as our first point of reference. All right. So in order to be able to create our 4-figure grid reference, we need to look at the line just there. And if we follow that down to the end, it says 12, 1, 2. So we come back up here to the train station, and that is the line there. All right. So we've got 12. All right, so I will write 12 down just there. And then I'm going to put a line between that and the next one, because now we need our northing. All right, so there it is. So we need to go down to the line at the bottom and head over to the end, and it's 85. So we've got 85. So that has found us the box that we need to be working in. All right, the box we're working in is just there, and each box on this map is 1 kilometer wide. Okay, it's a square kilometer. Okay, people. Now, if anybody's interested on this map, which is 1 to 125,000 scale, that would mean that every millimeter across here is equal to 25 meters. But don't worry about that for now. I've just thrown it in for those that might have interest in that. So there we go. So we've got 1, 2 on this line, and we've got 8, 5 on this line. All right, guys. So just here, we need to find, because now we've got as 4-figure grid references, which is good as this 1 kilometer square. We need to find the train station inside that square, all right? So because we're working with eastings and we're going down the corridor first, we need to work from the easting in. Now, let's bring us to a compass. So if we take the compass and those numbers and line the edge of the compass onto the easting we're dealing with, and then count in, you'll see that there it goes to 3. And if you look at the compass end, it goes from 1 to 10. That's the next line, all right? So it goes to 10, okay? So it would be 1, 2, that's line 1, 2, 3 in. So we're going to write 1, 2, 3. All right, guys. Now we need to work out our northing. All right. So we know that the line just here is 8, 5. So we're going to line our compass up on that. And then we're going to bring it over and then look at what number that says. And ironically, again, it says number 3. So we're going to write that down as number 3. Make sure it's number 3. Yes, it is. Number 3. So we've got 8, 5, 3. So the 6-figure grid reference for that square, all right, for that train station would be 1, 2, 3, 8, 5, 3. All right. So you go 1, 2, and 3 in. 8, 5 on the northing, and then 3 in again. And that would be variable as to any point within that square. All right. That's all it is. That's how simple 4- and 6-figure grid references are. You're just going by the numbers on the map and then breaking those squares down into segments of 10. All right, guys? Okay, so we've now looked at true north, magnetic north, and grid north. And we've also looked at 4- and 6-figure grid references. That's where we find the square initially, then we break it down to tens, and then we find the location within the square. So what we're going to do now is a quick overview of what a route card is, what it does, and why we need one. This is a route card. It can be as big or as small as you like. You can put as much or as least information in there as you like, but I always think to myself, the more information I've got on here, the less I have to do working things out on the hill, and the emergency services and people who I know have more information when I leave it at home, because you would have one of these on yourself. If you've got members of your group, you would give those one if they wanted one, preferably they would do. It's a brilliant teaching aid, so as you're going through your trip, they can refer to the route card, so they can be learning as you're going along and asking questions. It's there for use, all your information, all your bearings, all your grid references, your pacings, severity of land, and everything is all there, and notes from A to B. So it's good for you to know. And again, like I said, it's good for emergency services. All right, so let's look on this. I'm not sure if you can actually see it from there. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll bring you around so you can have a better look up close as to what's actually in the route card. But before I do that, we're going to be working with something called Naismith's rule, and that is Naismith's rule. I will put a picture of that into the video right now. And then we'll look at these other two pieces of paper which I have on here. Like, first of all, we've got group members on this route card. There it says group names, all right, but that's just giving people's names. On here, this piece of paper which would be carried with you, and also copies left at home in a sealed envelope in a safe or whatever at home with someone you trust. There would be these forms which people will be given to people to fill out, because you need this information. It gives their name of members that's a member in the group, their address, and their phone number. All right. Then you've got their next of kin name and phone number. Okay. Then you've got their medical information, any health issues that they've got, and medication that they're taking, and preferably what time they need to take it. Any dietary issues, in case anybody's got any allergies, which I ain't actually written on here yet, but I will be doing. It's because if somebody's allergic to nuts, and when people become disorientated due to exposure, they don't always know what they're doing. And if you give them nuts, they're going to fall into shock and all sorts of stuff. That would be really, really bad. So any allergies need to go onto here as well. You need to know their fitness level. I've that marked down between 1 to 10. So if you're only sort of average fitness, you go between 4 to 5. And then the amount carried in weight by each person. So you would weigh each pack before you set off to ensure that you know how much each person's carrying. And then the experience on the hill of each person. So that would be written on here as well. So you can take that into consideration yourself when you're setting up the route, so you know the abilities of your group. But also, if emergency services know you're out on the hill and you've personally been injured, they know the fitness ability of each person in that group. All right, so they know if somebody's, for example, down at 4 fitness level, carrying quite a lot of weight, and they don't have much experience on the hill, they're going to have problems trying to get themselves off really badly, actually. But if somebody's got really good health fitness level, they're up there 8 and 9, and they're carrying a lightweight professional setup, and they've got really loads and loads of experience on the hill, they're probably I don't know, mountain leader qualified. They know that that person's got a good chance of survival in really, really bad weather, all right? Or if they're stuck, or if they broke the leg or something like that, they're going to be clued up as to how to go about things. So that's what that information gives us. So it's good for you to have on you, and it's also good to be left at home for emergency services. Speaking of emergency services, there we have call it leader qualifications. So if whoever's leading the group, it puts their qualifications on there. A list of emergency routes. Now, in this route card, the emergency routes would be marked off by a star. I would literally put a star. On some of the Duke of Edinburgh stuff and other route cards, it gives an emergency route right at the end of each stage. Now, I don't think that's particularly a good idea, because you end up with a little box at the end, and you write some scribbly writing down, and all it does basically gives minimal information about how you would get off the hill if the weather came down, or if you had an injury or such like, or if something happened at home and you had to get off fast. All right. What I like to do is do an external card, which is here somewhere, where basically, oh sorry, it's in my hand, isn't it? I'm holding on to it. I think I'm losing plot. So on here, I would put a star and put A or 1, and then that would bring me over to this sheet where it said number 1. So it would give an in-depth description of locations where emergency services could pick you up, mountain rescue could leave you, routes off the hill to places of safety, or back to some local town or something like that on there. So I'd have like as many as required starred at certain points during the trip. So if I fall, or if something happens to me, people can get this and they can look for the star closest to where we are and revert and sort of work around that emergency exit. All right, and I can use it. For example, if I'm on the hill and somebody's broken the leg, we need to get somebody off, or somebody's coming down with exposure, hypothermia, or whatever it is. I don't want to be working out an emergency route off the hill in real time there when I've got to be looking after the casualty. I can basically quickly look at my route card, work out where I am to that point, and then find the nearest star to where I am, and then I can refer straight away to this piece of paper which has got in-depth information about the best route, about ways that emergency services can get to us and all that kind of stuff. So that would be on there. And then other information on the right hand side, first aid carried. So there will be a list of people carrying first aid kits, and including information about mine. This is all for emergency services to know as well, so they know how much first aid equipment you've got. First aid experience, if there's any other first aiders in the group, mine, Royal Yacht Association, British Canoe Union and such like. So you'd write down what you've got. Then you mark down if you've got any flares or markers. Also personal GPS beacon. If you're carrying, or somebody in your group is carrying a personal GPS beacon, all you have to do is pull or push a button, and this thing sort of springs an aerial out and it informs people to come and rescue them, which is really good. And if you've already contacted emergency services, at least they know then that somebody in your group has got that available to them, so they can work in conjunction with the people who are going to be coming out to you if it's not them themselves. Then you've also got down here whether you've got a survival shelter, and being a leader you should have one in your bag. That's basically a large bivvy bag where a group of people or you yourself can get inside and keep yourself out of really bad weather. Good idea to light a candle in there because it keeps you nice and warm. Even a candle can have an effect. And then you've got notes about the group if required. So any specific information about the group down there. For example, all the group are low on experience and this is their first trip. Something like that if required. Or we have number 2 or 3 on the group names is suffering disabilities or something like that. And then down at the bottom we've got emergency services. It just reiterates mountain rescue police can be contacted by 911 999, because when you are suffering hypothermia you don't always think straight, and things like that can be very, very confusing at the time, because you might start thinking, oh, I need a direct number to mountain rescue. You don't, you just phone emergency services and they will direct you to mountain rescue. And down at the bottom it says emergency food rations carried, so it gives a list at the bottom of any food other than the food you would normally standard be carrying out on the hill. For example, ration packs, extra high glycemic index sweets, if you've got any medium to low glycemic index foods in your pack which will help you over a longer period of time. So high glycemic food will give you immediate energy. It'll pep you up, for example Lucozade tablets and stuff like that. But if you've got stuff like oats and all that kind of stuff in your bag, that's sort of medium to low glycemic, so that's going to keep you going for a longer period of time, putting energy into your body which is going to last longer. So understanding food is a good thing to learn, as well as this, understanding your glycemic indexes, what food is going to do for you, blah blah blah. All right, so that's all on there. And this can get boring. I understand that it can get a little bit boring when you put one of these together, but the more information you put onto this sheet the better. Now what I'm going to do now is stop rattling on and bring you around and show you the sheet itself. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the graph for Naismith's rule. Now this one might blag some people's heads, but when you get used to it, you'll be fine. All right. Okay, so distance in meters, because we're working in meters and kilometers in this case. All right. So depending on your personal ability and speed, remember to do the walk, the 1 kilometer walk with your rucksack on, to work out what your standard average speed is on the flat. All right. Mine is 4, all right, so I would work with that. Some people might be less active, in which case less fit, so drop it down to 3, and that's how it would work. Now, down on the left hand side here, you've got between 100 meters to 900 meters, and then 1,000 meters, which is a kilometer. Okay, right, and here inside it's giving us the time it would take for you to pass that length, that distance of space at that speed. So if I was to travel 500 meters at 4 kilometers, it would give me 7.5 minutes. It would take me 7.5 minutes to travel that distance. Now this is not taking into considering contours and the height of land. We'll come on to that in a minute. All right. So if you're walking at 3 kilometers an hour with your rucksack on and you're only traveling 300 meters, it's going to take you 6 minutes. It's that simple to work out. It's a brilliant, brilliant system. Right, but if you're walking, for example, 1.5 kilometers, well, they need 1.5 kilometers on here. All right. So what you need to do is, and you're walking at, for example, 4 kilometers an hour, you need to take that and write down 15. So we've got 15 minutes to travel that distance. All right, at that pace, yeah, and then you need to look at 5, all right, 500, so because that's 1.5 kilometers, so you got 7.5 minutes, so that would be 22 minutes, all right, so to take you 22, well, 0.5 into it, so 22 minutes and 30 seconds, all right, that's simple. That's how you do it. It's like a little calculator. Let's do another one. Let's look, for example, if you're walking at 3 kilometers an hour and you've got to go for, I don't know, 1 kilometer 600 meters, yeah? So you would add your 20 because it's 3 kilometers, yeah, for 3 kilometers an hour for 1 kilometer, which would be 20 minutes, because it's going to take you a bit longer because you're walking a bit slower, aren't you? All right. And then you need to go down then to 600 because it's like 1 kilometer 600 meters, yeah, so 1600 meters, which would be 12, and all you do is simply add them together, and then you got there, it brings you up to 32 minutes, and that's how simple it is. And now we're going to go on to taking into consideration contour lines and height of land. Okay guys, in the real world, Naismith's rule is all well and good, but that's walking on the flat, isn't it? Yeah, how many meters or kilometers you will pass over at that particular speed, depending which one it is, giving you the time it would take you. So we've looked at that. All right. But in the real world, there's these things called contour lines, which means that we go up and down, don't we? Now, when you go up between contour lines, which are 10 meters apart, right, you see all these little contour lines here? You see all the numbers on them? They're all numbered for height of meters above sea level. When you go up contour lines, when you go uphill, you add a minute to every contour line you go up. Every 10 meters you go up, all right? If you're going down the other side, you don't. And if you're on the flat, you don't either. Now, let's have a look at our sheet. All right, so let's get over here. Right, so Edale started at Pennine Way to Upper Booth. Let's just nosy along. The distance is 2 kilometers, all right? And the difference in height of land on the contours is from 280 to 370. And that's the difference in height uphill of 90 meters. All right, 90 meters uphill between them 2 points. All right. Okay, now the time it would take us to pass that difference is 40 minutes. If that was flat, it would take us 40 minutes. But because we've got that there, okay, the gain in height of land, right, we have to add an extra 9 minutes because it's 1 minute per every 10 meters up we go. All right, so that would give us 49 minutes as a walk time. All right, now let's do a look at this one down here. Here we have a rest. When we get to the top of Jacob's Ladder, we're going to have 15 minutes because it's a bit of a struggle up there anyway, but it's nice to just have to check out the views because it's an amazing place and there's some lovely weather formations and all the wind and stuff blowing around up there. It's quite breathtaking. So we're going to go to the top of there and have 15 minutes. So in this case, from the top of Jacob's Ladder to the T-junction in the path, all right, they were on this one. So it's 600 meters between the top of Jacob's Ladder and the T-junction in the path, all right. It's going to take us 9 minutes to walk it, but because we're going up 13 meters, all right, we're going to add another, well, I've rounded it off at 10, all right, but it should really be 13, but I've rounded that one off to 10 because I can, all right. Shouldn't have really done, but I did, all right. So that there would be 10 or 13 plus 9. Well, let's be good boys and girls. 13 plus 9, 22. So it's going to take us 22 minutes plus the 15-minute rest, don't forget. So you've got 22 plus your 15, which is 37 minutes to go from the top of Jacob's Ladder to the path in the junction in the path. And I'll show you it. It's just there. So from top of Jacob's Ladder, it says, I thought I'd found it then. Anyway, I thought, oh, here we are, I've got it. There we are. Trying to orientate myself through my phone. So from there to there, all right, would take us 32 minutes because we're having a 15-minute rest there, and the gain in height on the contours takes us up to there, and for every one of those contour lines we pass, we have to add a minute on to there, and that makes us out at that time. All right, guys, so that's how it works. I hope this has been some use to you. Let's have another look at this sheet in more detail. Okay, guys, what I've done here to make it a little bit easier, just to run through the process, all right, is I've cordoned it off, because when you start looking at numbers and words and boxes and everything, it's all there, it can blag your brain. So we've V'd this off so you get that, just that section. So we're going from Edale train station bridge to the start of the Pennine Way in Edale across from the pub, all right. If anybody knows the area, you'll know exactly where it is because it's a really well-known spot, that. So it's 124854 to 123859, all right? The distance between those two locations can be worked out, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, as 700 meters. And we're walking in a northerly direction, straight up the map, all right? Right then, so then we've got the difference in the height of land through the contours is between 260 to 280, which is a difference of 20 meters. And for every meter, every 10 meters we move, uphill, we have to add 1 minute. All right, so because it's 20, it's an added 2 minutes. I'll be passing, because it's fairly flat, up that road, because it is a road, at 4 kilometers per hour. All right, and it's going to take me 10 minutes. So 10 minutes plus the 2 minutes it's going to take me on the rise in the land. All right, takes me to that point at 9:14 a.m. in the morning. And at the end, the notes that I've written there for that, if I can just work this out: turn left up the road till you reach the sign for the Pennine Way. And it really is that simple. And once you've got this in your brain, you're on a winner, because each one of these points you can work out where you're going from and where you're going to, the grid reference of both, the rough direction on your compass and your map you're going to be going in. You can work out the distance you're going to be passing from one point to the next, the difference in the height of land with the contour lines. All right, the length of time it's going to take you, how much you need to add on because of the rise in the land. Don't forget, if you're going downhill or on the flat, you don't add that. All right, you've also got information about times you're going to be stopping, the time in real time on your watch you're going to be setting off and arriving at between them 2 points, and also notes that you can note down, which give you a descriptive explanation of anything you might pass or points of interest between them 2 points. All right, guys, what we're going to do now is have a look at how to work out distances on the map. Right, guys, you'll see over here that between the Edale Bridge car park and the beginning of the Pennine Way is 700 metres. How did I get that number? All right, because when we look at this, just there, I'll be able to pass it up there, up to there. All right, how do I know that's 700 metres? Well, I know that each one of these squares is a kilometre across. From that line there, from that easting to that easting is a kilometre, and from that northern to that northern is a kilometre also. So I can break that down into 10. All right, so what I need to do is to get my piece of paper, and this is, believe me, this is hard with one hand. If anybody's done it before, you'll understand. It's hard enough with two. Right, so I'm going to go from there to there, the bend in the road, and then I'm going to get that, so I don't have to be sort of twangling about. I can go from the bend in the road there, just bear with me, I want to take my time and get this, it's moved, there to there as the road goes round, and then I go, then remembering where I was, from there up to, this is right hard with one hand while you're holding a phone, there up to there, which is the point where I want to go to. Now I've got that down at 700 metres. Now if I split this box down like we did with the 6-figure grid references, yeah, I'll just already take myself back to where I was supposed to be. Diddly-dee, there we go. If I split that down, it'll show you 10 on there. All right. Now if I go as the crow flies between them 2 points, it's going to show me 600 metres, because between each one of those is 100 metres. All right, 100 metres between each one, because there's 1,000 metres in a kilometre, so we split it down to 1,000, which, you know, means, so that makes 1,000. All right, so each one of those would be 100 metres. All right, so by the crow flies, that's going to tell me it's 600 metres, but if you look through the compass, is all this here, it's all bendy, right? So by getting our piece of paper and going, I'll show you again. So we need to start at this end. It's not easy, bear with me, it's not easy. So we're going from there up to there. You get that, yeah? And then we're going from there, cut a very, very slight bit off, but nothing to speak about, round to there, and then we're going to go right. You can do this with string as well. String's probably easier. It's certainly easier than trying to do it with a piece of paper when you've got one hand. From there up to the point at the beginning of the Pennine Way, which is there. Now if I take that off there and put it underneath this, what happens? It becomes 7. So I've gained 100 meters, and that's simply because we've gone round bends. And I can reiterate that because at the bottom of your map you've got this gauge that you can go by, which shows you the broken down kilometre into meters, into 100 meter slots. And if I take that and bop that at the, blimey, this is awkward, the bottom there, that takes me up to the 700 meter point just there. So I know that between those 2 points it's going to be 700 meters, and that's what I would put in there, and that would be the same for each one. And you might say, well, what happens when it's like over 2 kilometers, over, you know, it goes over that? Well, obviously you're going up to 2 kilometers and 2.7 kilometers and 200 meters and etc., all the way along, and that gets incorporated into the route card so that I can work all the rest of my equations, including the height of land taken into consideration. Every 10 meters I add an extra minute, so I'll work out the distance that we've just done. I'm reiterating this again for you. The distance which we've just done, 700 meters, and I know by using Naismith's rule that at 4 kilometers per hour is going to take me 10 minutes, but because I've gone up 20 meters between the first point and the second point, I know that I've got to add 2 minutes, so that's 12 minutes, all right, which from 9:02 up to 9 added onto that would be 9:14, so it's 14 minutes past 9. Woo, great stuff. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, to finally finish off this video covering 4 and 6 figure grid references, the 3 NOVs, the basic overview of the route card and all the information in it, and how I find my distances from A to B, and how we add a minute on each 10 meters up we go. We're going to basically talk about emergency routes. Now, if I walk from there up to there, I don't really need emergency route because I'm already in a village. All right, all's good. If I fall down there and collapse, somebody's a good chance someone's going to find me, or I'll just phone somebody or something. Now, if I'm going from there over to there, which is the third leg of my trip, and something happens to me along this route. Now, if you look closely, up there is Broadley Bank, and that's a steep hill. All right, that's going up there. You don't want to worry about that. Now, over here you've got farmers' fields, and if you look carefully, there's no paths. So the easiest way to get me off there, unless there just happens to be a farmer helping his sheep here somewhere, is to either get me from there that way, or from there that way. All right, so I'm either going to Upper Booth or back to Edale. All right, that speaks for itself. Oh yeah, that'd be a pretty easy rescue, I would reckon, depending if I'd snap my spine into 5 different places. Now, between Upper Booth and the bottom of Jacob's Ladder, we've got the same situation, because if you look here, there's no other paths. Again, you're going up onto the hill there. Look at the gradients. All right, up onto there. And if you look this way, it's going the same situation. We're going up, so we're in a valley there, aren't we? So, because you'd work that out by looking at the numbers to make sure, and you'll see that they're rising up to there, and on this side they're also rising up to there. So you're in a valley. All right. So if I'm stuck halfway down there, there's a place there called Lee House, which I could look into. I mean, that's somewhere I could possibly get a casualty to. But other than that, again, I'm either getting the mountain rescue to come in on there to collect me, or I'm coming back off. So I would be coming back down to Upper Booth. Now, there's no point me going up to here because I'm taking them into the middle of nowhere. So then again, that would be another rescue route, would be back. So in my notes, I would write, if something happened there, I would be getting the casualty back to Upper Booth, or giving a grid reference across that point just there. All right, guys. And it's the same thing up on here. If we look here, we've got Jacob's Ladder. If I was at the bottom of Jacob's Ladder, I'd be going to Upper Booth. If I was at the top of Jacob's Ladder, because I'd have to get the casualty right down a steep hill, I would be making my way over here, because this goes up slightly due to the numbers up there, the gradient, and then down here into this valley here. So I've got an option there. I either can try and get them down that steep hill, or I can use it, get them up there and take an easier route off, or I can also try and find an area here in open moorland which is stable, give a 6-figure grid reference so that I can get people to be airlifted off the top of the hill up there. All right, guys, I hope that helps. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for watching. I do hope this video will be of use to somebody. Route cards are very important, depending, I mean, it doesn't matter how much information. If you want it for yourself, just put only basic information on there. But if you're using it as a safety aid as well, it's very, very important to ensure you get as much information as you can, so it's leading emergency services in the right direction. People get to know what time, because we've covered it, what time you're going to be at each point of your journey, and all that other information is in place, as well as information about your group members, other people who's with you, places you may be stopping for slightly longer, you know, your break times, where you're going to be camping, how long you're going to be camping for. And it's a brilliant teaching aid. If you've got somebody in your group who doesn't know much about map work and you give them this, it gives them a chance to study it, and you don't have to give them all the information. You can even blank some stuff out so they're only working with bearings. You could actually go into more detail on bearings and walking on a bearing and stuff, which we'll probably do again at another point, and grid references. And then you can start instigating distance, so they start working out the distances in meters, how far they're going to be going. And also then the ascents and descents, and then working out how long it's going to take from A to B and the different things they need to take into consideration. All right. But just remember, before you do this, there's no point doing it and just doing it at 4 kilometers an hour. You need to work out over a kilometer how long it's going to take you using Naismith's rule, so that you can put this together, because each one of these is going to be personal to the creator. There's no point copying one of these. It has to be your own. And when it comes to the notes, even notes of the route from point A to D to C, E, and etc., different people notice different things. For me, it's normally woodlands and streams, particular rock outcrops. For some people, it may be other things. It may be specific moorlands, or maybe rivers, or whatever it is, or buildings. Some people use buildings as a note. So even that's going to be personal to different people. But it's definitely worth learning, and it's a great aid. If I've missed anything out, please drop it in the comments below. I can't think that I have, but I've just done it all in one go. And just make sure that all the information on your sheet is correct and up to date, including phone numbers and addresses. Make sure your next of kin, make sure they've got the right phone number down there. And it's always good to get involved in using compasses. There's always going to be orienteering courses running, like in social events and stuff, and there's going to be people online who's going to be willing to help you. Any problems at all, drop a comment in the notes below. I've enjoyed doing this. It's been really good. I love working with maps. I've got different maps. I've got all kinds of maps. I'm always fiddling around with maps. Play with maps. Get to understand maps. Get stuck into the key. If you want to know where the key is, let me show you quickly. Let me find it. My keys run off. Here we are. The key is down the side of the map, and then all the information down there about different signs for rivers. It's got boundary lines. It's got different kind of churches with towers, words without towers, different kinds of paths, different kinds of roads. All that information is down there, and you can make reference from that to that, and you can have loads and loads of fun with it. Teach your kids. Get your kids out on the hill. Teach them. Make a little route art in your local area. Find a local map, one by one. You know how to do that now by looking for the particular number in the area that you're in. And get your kids out there looking, doing some orienteering. Hide things for them. Find gifts and stuff and put them out. I used to leave spoons in locations where I've been camping. And if I'm working with maps, what I would have done is left a route card so people could have made their way to my camp area. Maybe that's something you could do and all, because it's all good fun.